Good morning. Yeah, I'm very excited about this presentation because the opening session laid such a wonderful foundation, and I just want to build on that. So Dr. Young's speech, I think everybody was talking about it afterwards. Oh, love your enemy, shop with your enemy, watch TV with your enemy. Thank you, Dr. Young. They will never forget. Our topic is transforming families, rebuilding nations, and creating a world of peace. In this session, living for the sake of others as the foundation of peace. In this session, there are just two speakers, myself and Ursula McLaughlin, our Secretary General. Both of us will be talking about the principles of peace of Father and Mother Moon. So although we will be speaking, it's actually Father Moon that has taught us, and we want to teach you. Everything operates by immutable, unchanging principles. Everything. Religions are trying to look for those, but also science is looking for them. If you want to construct buildings, you must know the principles of construction. If you want to be an electrical engineer, you must know the principles of electricity. And you study hard and you pass a test. And only when you pass a test demonstrating that you know those principles, then you are given a license. If you want to be a civil engineer and build buildings, you must know the principle of civil engineering. And when the bridge falls down, you are responsible. You didn't know the principle. Something happened. It doesn't matter. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later, they will come knocking at your door. Some principle was violated. You must know the binary system of computers if you want to be a computer engineer. You want to be a photographer. You must know the principles of optics and photography. The Wright brothers only learned to fly in 1903 because without the principles we could not fly. We could dream about flying. We can see the birds fly, but without the principles we cannot fly. The universe operates by principles. The atoms and molecules operate by principles, as do the sun and planets and solar systems. Faith also must operate by principles. What are these principles that we hold in common? All the world's religions are looking for these immutable, unchanging principles. They use different names. In Christianity, they call it the Logos. We're looking for the Logos, the principles of God. In Islam, it's the Shariat. In Buddhism, it's the Dharma. Hinduism, the Marga. In Taoism, it's the Tao. We're looking for these unchanging principles. We must identify them clearly. Who is this man? Is he a New York Yankee fan or a New York Mets fan? Of course, most of you may not know him. But I'll put another hat on him and you'll recognize him more easily. This is Cardinal Timothy Dolan. Recently, when they were electing a new pope for the Catholic Church, Cardinal Dolan was interviewed by CNN. And the microphone was put in his face and the question was asked, Cardinal Dolan, if you are pope, what will you change? His answer shocked me. He said, I don't want to change anything. In fact, I'm against change. Whoa. That's the religious mind. That's the way that's why it's so hard to work with religious people, because they don't want to change. So, we have two elements of society. We have a religious nature, a spiritual nature. Those things shouldn't change. Eternal, unchanging, and absolute. But we also have political and economic other institutions that need to adapt and change. If religion is sidelined from society, whether we say separate the church and state, or religion is the opium of the people, or for whatever reason, or because religions are fighting among themselves, they just push them off to the side, All we're left is change. Change, change, change. Nothing is permanent. This is a problem because the materialistic side of life tends to be more self-centered. Tolerance is not enough. Religious dialogue is not enough. We must work together. How do we do that? We must find a set of common principles that we agree on without compromising our faith, whether we're a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Muslim or a Taoist, something that we can agree on without compromise. Then, and only then, together, can religions work effectively. And you'll hear a very powerful testimony of what happened in Taiwan at the end of November. By the religions working together, there's a powerful force that can be unleashed when the religions find these common principles. These principles that we all agree on without compromise are basically two. I will deal with the first one, and my colleague, Mrs. Ursula McLaughlin, will deal with the second one. First, mind and body. We need pillars. You want to build a building. You first put the pillar. The pillar is the most important. How high you want that building, how thick that pillar must be. After you have the pillars, then you put the beams. And then when you have the pillars and beams, what do you have? Freedom. First blessing, second blessing. This is the third blessing. First blessing, mind and body. Second blessing, multiply, love. This is the third blessing. This is freedom. If you get the first and second blessing correct, that's enough. Freedom will come. Why? What is this going to be? I don't know. I just saw the picture on the internet and took it because it was a really good picture. What could it be? Anything. It can be an office. It could be a shopping center. It could be an apartment building. It could be a court of law, a justice, a school. This is when you gain freedom. If you have the pillars and beams in place, those two principles, then you can build anything you want to. And if you remove the pillars and beams, what happens? Well, we know things implode. Character implodes, family implodes, communities implode, nations implode, civilizations rise and fall because these pillars and beams have not been clearly identified and heeded to. This is the problem. I will talk about the first one, mind and body. I love this quote from the United Nations. We all know it. War begins in the minds of man. It's in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. In the minds of men. War begins in the minds of men. Corruption begins in the minds of men. Gender prejudice begins in the minds of men. Resource depletion and exploitation and pollution of the environment begin in the minds of men. Exploitation of one another, trafficking women. So Father Moon's strategy to bring a new world is education. Education so that the mind is clear on these basic principles. Then people govern themselves. We don't need police to govern us because we become self-governing. If we cannot govern ourselves individually, then we create all kinds of crime. We cannot govern ourselves sexually, then we become really a mess. Sexual anarchy. Let's look at the first principle. Mind and body. The mind controls the body. But it's actually quite a bit different than the rest of the animal world. In animals, their mind is called instinct. It controls the behavior of the animal, their movement and behavior. The mind of the plant is called response mechanism. It determines how the plant grows. The mind of the molecular world is natural law. And Einstein taught us, energy creates particles. Particles create atoms. Atoms create molecules based on these laws, immutable, unchanging laws. But here's a big difference. The relationship of mind and body in the animal world, the plant world, and the molecular world is unlearned. Instinctual, automatic, or pre-programmed. But in human behavior, it's not like that. This is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us, this area of responsibility. Religions are trying to teach us this simple truth. The Bible, Matthew 7, ask, it will be given. Seek, you will find. Knock, and it will be open. If you don't ask, you will not be given. If you do not seek, you will not find. If you don't knock, no door is going to open. Responsibility. This is unique among human behavior. The Quran, the Holy Quran. There is no compulsion in religion. The Quran is going to teach you. The Prophet Muhammad has given us the Quran. But it says there's no compulsion. You have responsibility. In the Analects of Confucianism, the master said, have no deprived thoughts. Who's going to clean your mind? You are. Buddha said, it is you who must make the effort. The great people of the past will show you the way. Your parents, your teachers, your ministers, they will show you the way, but you have to do it yourself. In the Bhagavad Gita, the mind can be your best friend or your mind can be your worst enemy. Father Moon is focusing on educating the mind. Americans love liberty. And we have a big statue given to us by the French. We put it in New York Harbor. But Americans have to understand the difference between the nature of freedom and the purpose of freedom. The nature of freedom is no restraint. Don't tell me what to do. I am free. Sometimes children will even say this to their parents. Ouch! In this case, freedom, or the name of freedom, is actually being misused. It's selfishness. In the name of freedom, don't tell me what to do. You're my parent. You have to knock before you come in my room. You want to visit my home? I'm married. Oh, make an appointment before you come and visit me. What is happening? We have focused too much on the nature of freedom without understanding the purpose of freedom. The purpose of freedom is to give us responsibility so that we participate in creating our character. We are not animals. We are human beings. And we have this gift of responsibility. Therefore, we actually need two kinds of education. We have to educate people to be smart, which our school systems are doing already, and we have to educate people to be good. But this is the problem. What does it mean to be good? We haven't found a common definition of goodness. So therefore, we've left it aside, and we just teach people to be smart and hope that they're good. As necessary as education is to be smart, equally, in fact, more important, children need to be educated to be what is good. Can we find a universal definition of goodness? Bishop Stallings is sitting in the middle next to Mark Abernathy. Jesus said, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Reverend Kttle is there also, and Father Clement. How are you going to be perfect? How are you going to do it? Jesus gave us the answer. Also in the Mark. You want to be perfect, he says? Go and sell your possessions and give them to the poor. Live for the sake of others. And then what did Jesus say? Actually, it's more difficult for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. Why? Because this is the standard. Live for the sake of others. Whoa! It's not easy. Not easy. Because our selfish nature is so ingrained into us, the culture supports that, it makes it even more difficult. Father Moon's favorite Bible verse, if you seek to gain your life, you will lose it. What Dr. Young talked about, selfishness will kill you spiritually. But if you seek to lose your life, the irony is you gain it. If you have faith without works, you are dead. This same principle of living for others is taught in all the religions. Buddha said, To control the mind is good. Whoa. The controlled mind is conducive to happiness. You control your mind. Self-control. If you don't control yourself, somebody else will, and they're called policemen and judges and courts. And you won't like it because your freedom will be taken away. But we have a system for that. And if you go to jail and you still can't control yourself, then you go to solitary confinement. We have different levels of taking away your freedom because you cannot control yourself. Buddha also said, misers do not go to heaven. Stingy, selfish people don't go to heaven. Noble men, noble women find joy in generosity. The Quran teaches, do not expect when you give any increase. This is the heart of a parent. No parent would keep a record and give a receipt to their children any time in their life. Parents just desire to give and give and give more. Menses. To nourish your mind, there is nothing better than make your desires few. The mind should be stronger and your desires should be weaker. And those two complement each other. Sikhism. Where egoism exists, God is not experienced. And where God is, egoism is not. Selfishness is the enemy, our biggest enemy. This actually is my favorite quote of all of them. In the Bhagavad Gita, sacrifice. Sacrifice performed by those who desire no reward, no self-interest. This is the nature of goodness. We make ourselves good by living for others. Not the government, not the teachers, not the religious leaders. Each of us have responsibility to make ourselves good. What animal is that the most valuable? And people will give all kinds of names because of time. We don't have the opportunity. But that question rephrased. What is the animal that serves us the most? Especially when we are in agrarian societies, we know it's the heifer or the cow. It was the top of Abraham's sacrifice, which Abraham stands as the father of the Jews, the Christians, and Muslims when he made this a sacrifice. In China, they have the ox to protect them from the floods of the river. In Egypt, the goddess Hathor is the cow. And in India, Nandi. Many, many images of Nandi. God has used this image to teach us one thing. Living for others creates value. That's the nature of the cow. Plow the field, thresh the grain, the dung, urine, everything we can use. Milk, everything. So the Hindus, they think this sacrificial nature of the cow is like their mother. My mother sacrifices so much. So the idea of eating a cow is unthinkable in the Hindu mind because they revere so much their mothers and love so much. The opposite is also true. Just living for myself is the enemy of enemies. Selfishness. So how do we solve this problem? I would suggest you buy a big mirror and look in the mirror. You have a mind and a body. And the relationship of the mind and body will determine whether you are good or selfish. The mind is up and the body is down. This is our responsibility. If you look at the room today, everybody has a mind and body. And this is more fundamental than the male-female relationship because both men and women have minds and bodies. It's the fundamental nature where we have our first area of responsibility. This relationship of public and private is so important. I'll show you examples of what goes wrong if we don't have the correct alignment. If mind and body are upside down and I just think about myself, then try to build human relationships, I run into conflict. Because I'm only thinking of myself, then I'm going to have conflict. And that conflict will just get bigger and bigger, and we'll have wars because of this. mind and body are upside down, and I try to create art, no, I just want to make money. And I'll ask girls, take off their clothes, take a picture, sell it to the guys. I don't care about the girl. I don't care about her family. I don't care about her future. I just want to make money. This is a problem. This is a mind-body problem. Mind and body are upside down. Industry, no, I don't want to process the waste material so it's useful for someone else. I just dump it in the river or the ocean. Well, people get tired of this. We used to go to Manila Bay and clean up Manila Bay. We don't anymore because we just clean it up. It gets dirty. We clean it up. It gets dirty. Happens again and again. So we don't even clean it up anymore. We have to go to the root of the problem. Mind and body are upside down. We try to create a business. There's corruption. The largest bankruptcy in the history of humankind was in America. It's called Enron. More than 12 years ago. 13, now going on 14 years ago. I learned two things. Poverty doesn't cause corruption. The people at Enron were very, very wealthy. One man had 11 houses and 3 boats. And also they were not illiterate. Very well educated, best schools, Ivy League schools. Poverty does not cause corruption, and being smart does not prevent it. This man is another example, the trigger for what we call the global recession. Sadly, although he's in prison, his son committed suicide from the shame of his father. Wow. But we learn from scientists that study the mind, how the mind works. Sigmund Freud said, delayed gratification. Don't be so selfish so quickly. Delayed gratification, impulse control. Control yourself. Control your greed. Control your sexual desire. This is an important component for emotional intelligence and maturity. So here science and religion actually concur with each other. We learn to live for others. This is what Dr. Yong was talking about. Filial piety. I live for the sake of something bigger. The first institution that is bigger than myself is my family. And then my family, of course, lives for the sake of others. But two things develop. I develop good character, and I become a filial son. They happen together. The most natural place for this to happen is in the family, which is why in Asia, especially in the Taoist and Confucius traditions, the family is so important, and filial piety is highlighted. Filial piety. You want to love your parents, then you cannot love yourself so much. You have to kind of choose. I love my parents or I love myself. Well, the more I love my parents, the less I love myself. The more I love myself, the less I love my parents. You have to put that equation together. But this is a scalable model. The family lives for the community. The community lives for the sake of the nation for the world. And then we have names for these people. If you live for the sake of the community, you're called a good citizen. You pay taxes and you obey the laws. And if you live for the sake of the nation, you're called a patriot. And in the military, they highlight this patriotism, willing to sacrifice even my life. I love my country so much. And in the world, they're called holy saints and sons. It begins with filial piety, living for others. My conclusion is this. Father Moon's autobiography. To realize that we exist for the sake of others is the great achievement that changes our life. It changes our priority. It changes our perspective. It changes our value system. It changes everything. I don't live for myself anymore. When we realize that our life is not ours alone, but is meant to be for the sake of others, we begin to follow a path different from the one we were on. This is the transition in the teenage years. This morning at Hundoke, 5 o'clock, Dr. Yong was explaining. 16, 17, 18. Those are the critical years for any child. They're struggling with this point. Shall I love myself or should I love these ideals and values of my parents? This is what they're struggling with. Father Moon says the principle of goodness is living for others. That is by definition good. The principle of evil is live for myself. I don't care for others, I only care for myself. Our theme for this session, living for the sake of others, is the foundation of faith. Let's stop talking about theism or atheism. Both Eastern and Western religions can agree here. Live for others is good. You can be no less a Christian if you believe this and practice this. In fact, it'll help you be a better Christian. No less a Buddhist if you believe and practice this. This is the central point of faith, of all traditions, all religions. Agreeable without compromising anything. And as Amala will explain later, it's the foundation upon which we can build relationships. Mine is talking about how to build good people, good character, living for others. Amala will talk about building good marriages. But the beginning point is here, good people through education. This is the pillar, this is the beam. Thank you very much.